welcome to our town hall meeting with Mayor Fulop. Now, the format for our questions this evening. Questions can be, we've received some already. Questions can also be written on the paper that has been made available to you and given to either Kern or Jay. Say hello, gentlemen. They will go through the questions, and I will be reading them to the mayor, who's just arriving right now.
Let me say thank you for taking some time. I'm going to introduce some of the people that are here tonight from our staff as well, that if I can't answer a question, then they're here to be a resource to you as well. So we're going to go into some questions. I know you wrote them down. I just want to talk thematically a little bit larger about some of the things that are happening throughout the city that I think we've worked very hard on and are particularly proud of. I think most of you recognize that we still have a lot of room to grow and a lot of potential, and change doesn't happen overnight, but I think that incrementally we are moving in the right direction. If you look at any financial metrics possible, Jersey City is leading the state of New Jersey, from construction starts to drop in unemployment. We had a credit rating upgrade last year. We've had 2 years of stable taxes, 1 year reduction. This year we're about to introduce our budget later this year. That looks good as well. We're also making historic investments in parks. We are building more affordable housing than has been done in the previous 10 years. Over the last 2 years, we're particularly proud of some of those construction starts that we've seen on that front as well. We're focused on things like veteran affordable housing. I think there's a lot going on in the city that there, frankly, is to be proud of. You see it visibly even in things from the mural program to the bike share program to, for the first time in 30 years, development coming out in Journal Square. And those are particular things that we spoke to 2.5 years ago, and you're actually seeing moving in the right direction. Now, that's not to say that we don't have a lot more work to do. I'd be the first to say that, but whether it's policing, whether it's investment in parks, whether it's development, whether it's affordable housing, I think we are moving in the right direction. And the goal of tonight is really to answer any questions, any disconnects. There's nothing that is off limits. I'm happy to answer really any question that you guys have. And I'm just thankful for the opportunity to come in front of you. I'm a New Heights resident. Some of you know. I certainly, both as a mayor and as a neighbor, want to see all of you happy with your services from a local government standpoint.
In the last Heights community meeting with you nearly 2 years ago, the residents of the Heights expressed concern over the cleanliness of our streets. We know that the incinerator authority, an autonomous agency, was in your crosshairs as being primarily responsible. Additional contributing factors include a lack of enforcement for trash-related violations and a contractor that regularly spills trash onto the streets and does not keep up with the regular trash schedule pickup. The streets a few blocks to the north of us in Union City are clean. The trash issue remains a major concern here in the Heights. What is going to be done differently now that the incinerator authority is subsumed under DPW to solve this problem?
Yep. In particular, on the garbage cans, our policy continues to be the same exact thing as it was previously. If you want a garbage can in front of your house or on the respective corner, it basically comes from the community organizing and asking us for it. The challenge continues to be, whether it's downtown or the Heights or Greenville, the same exact thing. What we will see is people ask for the garbage can, we will put the garbage can out there, and then people will put their household trash inside of that garbage can. Subsequently, you will get rats, you will get overflowing garbage, and it's not fair sometimes to be blaming the city solely for that. We have inspectors that go out, that go through the trash, looking for those people who put it in there, but it is a really inefficient way to go about it. So what we've decided to do is ultimately, if you or your neighbors want a trash can, generally first thing to do is to get the person or resident whose house it will be in front of to agree to it, which I think is a fair starting point. Generally, people have a different perspective when it comes to being in front of their own respective house, but we're okay with that. And then get your surrounding neighbors. We are happy to put them in. Mark right there will respond. We'll turn it around in a couple days and tell us where you want it, but it comes from you ultimately, and you guys driving that on telling us where it is and ultimately being responsible for it.
I have hand crews that are out in the fields cleaning up by hand, and that's something that's unique. You only see it normally in the summertime. This year we're able to expand that program even into the winter and into the springtime. So you should start seeing cleaner streets. Tomorrow we have the sweepers once again going out into the streets, something you don't see in the wintertime when there's snow. You don't see street sweepers, you just see them tomorrow. So I think that's also an important aspect of coming out of a snowstorm so quickly with the snow removal, you'll start seeing street sweepers in the streets, and we have 30 crews out cleaning the streets by hand.
The second question, as a year one park, Riverview Fisk Park has $1.5 million slated towards renovations this year and a promise of immediate implementation. The project to rebuild the gazebo that was destroyed by Sandy in 2012 is not yet out to bid. What is the current time frame to get the gazebo built?
Those are both initiatives, and the time frame is mapped out in the back of the respective handouts that we have here on what we are renovating and where we are. Sometimes the bids are challenging to get out. Sometimes we don't get the responses that we want. Sometimes the responses are challenged legally. So things sometimes that frankly seem like they should happen overnight don't happen overnight. It's not because we're not working. Certainly I, for one, recognize the best example is that Pershing Field playground needed to be repaired. I think we all recognize it. It took the better part of a year in order to get a contractor in there approved that we weren't in litigation over. So those things are on our slate. We are working on them for this year. We are focused on the dollars that we've invested. We're committed to the Heights. This is outlined clearly over here. Those things will get done in this year. There's no question about it.
The Jersey City Master Plan has not been comprehensively updated since the year 2000. The city's been relying on inconsistent and easily exploitable redevelopment plans to rezone neighborhoods. The 90-plus redevelopment plans don't address the larger citywide issues like infrastructure, public transportation, school capacity, appropriate density, building height, road conditions, and green space. When will your administration update the master plan for the city?
This was a consistent theme actually in the community group downtown as well. They had a similar sentiment regarding the use of redevelopment plans. And the use of redevelopment plans isn't new to our administration. It's been common practice here for a long, long time. Our commitment was that we went back to the plan. This was last week after the Ward E meeting. We went back to our planning department and asked them to update that. I had no opposition to hiring a firm to go and do a comprehensive master plan study involving the community groups. Where that is right now is that the director of planning is setting up a meeting with those community groups that expressed interest. We are happy to loop you into that. We want more community involvement. Bob Cotter, the director of planning, had some concerns and some opinions with regards to what has been updated and that people may not realize what has been updated since then. And it's not so cut and dry. The second thing I would say about the redevelopment plans is the redevelopment plans certainly add more flexibility. That's for certain. Nobody would argue that point, but it cuts both ways. Nothing in the city is rigid. Nothing in the city is set in stone. Cities are living, breathing, changing entities. And redevelopment plans give flexibility to that. Whether it's cabaret license, whether it's restaurants on liquor license, whether it's redevelopment plans and zoning changes. And those cut both ways, and that ultimately speaks to sentiment as far as trust in government, which I know is a hard thing to come by today. I certainly appreciate that. So that said, what I said last week stands for the Heights as well. I am happy to get a planning firm with your input on this and move forward on that. But I would just say the first step in that process, and we're being recorded here, the first step in the process is to have representatives from the respective community groups here in order to sit down with our planners so you get a better idea of why things have been happening the way they have been and where we are as far as update. We will include you in those going forward when I do my follow-up tomorrow.
Thank you. With the Riverview Arts District approved in 2013, a lack of after-school programs for children in the Heights, having a community arts center would remain a high priority for all the residents of the Heights. How and when can you create such a community arts space here?
Okay. Kevin, do you want to talk at all to recreation activities, Heights specific?
I won't stand here and reinvent the wheel on what we have planned for recreation. But suffice to say, we have some brand new initiatives from getting our staff into the schools a bit earlier. I don't think we have anything on board for community centers. But what we do have, excuse me, I'm a bit nervous my first time out with you guys, but we have the Armory, which we are working with to initiate new programs. We have after-school programs where we're going to have kids come in after school, help you guys out with homework, help you with recreational programs. What else? Angela, what else do we have going on? See, the mayor wants to save me because I'm feeling a little nervous. It just takes me a while to get warmed up. But again, like I said, suffice to say, we're putting a lot of programs in place. We're going to reinvent our website so that you guys can see what's going on. I'm going to bring my staff out here to talk to you in detail about the transportation programs. When you guys can't get to a specific area, we're planning on bringing your needs or your children out to the area to be involved in fencing and roller skating, ice skating, lacrosse, girls softball, gymnastics, a whole host of programs. I think the biggest one that we're going to tackle this year is going to be a roller rink at Pershing ice skating facility. We're going to turn that over into a roller skating so we can have year-round activities. We're working with the Devils right now to try and get funding for it. And again, that's on the table. But more importantly, I think what I really want to say is that I'd like to come out when I'm a lot less nervous and have this discussion with you guys, with the staff that can really let you guys know all the programs that we have. But we do have a myriad of things that are going to be on the website.
First, on the recreation front, we do have more schools open in the last 2 years as after-school programs partnership with the Board of Ed than has been done in decades. It's something we're particularly proud of. There's no shortage, I think you can speak to this, there is no shortage of recreation programs. Whatever you want to do, I assure you that the city does offer it. Sometimes there's a disconnect between us publicizing it and sometimes residents seeking out that information. But whether it's scuba diving, we offer it. Whether it's obviously basketball or baseball or football, we offer it. I mean, you could really get into the weeds on different sort of programs that we do on the recreation front. There's a lot to do, and we're spending a lot of money on it as well. So if you look at what we've dedicated to recreation programs, it's more significant that's been done ever before as well. So there's no shortage on that front, specifically as it relates to an arts center. So let me just highlight that component of it. You know, everything is a balancing act. We do not have today the funds to build a new art facility center, so to speak, anywhere in the city. We are focused right now as a city, and one objective that I do have prior to the conclusion of a first term is that I think that we will find a new location for the museum. And hopefully it will be away from downtown and some of the locations that we're looking at right now. Closer to Journal Square. We're very close to that right now. But as it relates to a specific facility for recreation arts, it would be a hard-pressed thing to build within the budget with focusing on keeping taxes stable.
What can the city do to accelerate the use of tools like the Abandoned Property Rehabilitation Act to rehab or demolish the dangerous abandoned properties at the Heights? Are there other solutions available to force delinquent property owners and lenders to rehab or sell these properties?
Okay.
Right now, there are 24 abandoned properties in the city of Jersey City. These properties are designated abandoned by the public officer, Ed Coleman, and Dave Donnelly is working from the Jersey City Redevelopment Agency using the APA ordinance to take them into Superior Court to have those properties.
Can I take one step back so that there's a little bit of clarity on that? Is that obviously there's not 24 properties abandoned.
Well,
obviously the number is 900 or 800.
There's 930 vacant properties.
Okay, so I wanted to clarify. Yeah. I wanted to clarify that because 1 second, Mark. So that there's 20 allowed in the law is a way to facilitate taking some of those properties away from the bank and designating them to either a local developer, somebody to build affordable housing, somebody to get an ownership. There's a lot of parameters around that. The city's experimenting with that for the first time. So when he says that there's 24 projects or that are designated abandoned, there are 24 projects that the redevelopment agency is focused on pushing it through the system right now as the first pilot for the 24. So that's not to say that that's the absolute number. There's obviously 900, 950, whatever that number is, but we're trying on these 24. Assuming they're successful, then we will obviously do it broader. We are trying to work with the unions on this in order to help them develop them. in order to hopefully get some affordable housing out of it. Some of them are becoming veteran housing, which I touched on earlier, and some of them are becoming market rate housing. Some of the ones specific to the Heights up here, we've worked with, which you can speak to, we've worked with, I believe you've been in touch with Maury and
Yes.
Nick in order to make sure that those work.
Correct.
The basic infrastructure of the Heights is badly in need of attention. From roads that need repaving, sunken manhole covers, streetlights that need to be replaced with brighter bulbs, malfunctioning and overflowing garbage receptacles, empty tree pits, crosswalk repainting, and parks maintenance. What specifically is your administration doing to address these elemental infrastructure issues in 2016 and 2017? Additionally, how is the performance of the city employees that do this work being monitored and evaluated?
So let me say that every year we do an aggressive street paving plan. It's not perfect. Most of that is driven off of council agendas, and then it's based on the necessity from traffic and engineering. So there's obviously a street paving plan that will start in the spring again. The storms obviously place wear and tear on the streets, and we're always trying to catch up ultimately to the wear and tear that's happened. This year is going to be no difference. Always people think that we could do more on the street paving. That continues to be a struggle. We spend millions of dollars a year on street paving that is divided equally between every area of the city. Now, one area of the city sees more, not one area of the city sees less. We're very, very diligent about that. With regards to sewer, water main breaks, infrastructure, right now the city's under a city consent order regarding working on our sewer system and our infrastructure. It's a $40 million multi-year plan. The reality of the situation is that our sewer system in Jersey City is very, very old. That's the reality of it. You have water main breaks when you have an old infrastructure and the weather changes very frequently from cold to warm, cold to warm, cold to warm. The ground contrasts, expands, contrasts, expands, and then basically bursts some of those pipes underneath. That's what's happening when you have this sort of thing, and that's the challenge ultimately we have. It is cost prohibitive to replace everything at once. As much as I would like to do that, it is cost prohibitive. Much of our system is actually fed on gravity, and that is a challenge as well. So we deal with this stuff, and as we need to, and over time, we gradually replace it and improve it, but that does take time. So that's on the infrastructure front. On the garbage can front, we touched on that already. And the street pits and the lights, ultimately. PSE&G is obligated to turn back on those lights within 24 hours. Generally, they are pretty good on it. If a light bulb is burnt out on your block, it's a very simple protocol. We're pretty good about it. You go to the pole, there is a number on the side of it. You could email me. I'm very responsive on this. You could email the Resident Response Center. Just email us that number on the side of it, the street, if you want to email us, it'll be done in the next 24 to 48 hours. I can promise you that. And then finally, on the pits, if there is a vacant pit, we are doing a lot of tree planting, thankfully, with the Jersey Parks Coalition, who the president happens to be a Heights resident as well. She's here, Laura Skolar.
One of the largest issues in the Heights is that of parking. Cars are already parked on sidewalks, curb cuts seem to be given on demand, and developers are constantly pushing for higher density and fewer parking spots. Parking garage is desperately needed. Can you commit to building a city-owned parking garage in the Heights? And additionally, how will you help eliminate the illegal parking practices that are so prevalent in the Heights?
Let me start by saying building a parking facility in the Heights or downtown or in Greenville. Currently, it is not slated anywhere in the city to build one. There's a couple reasons for that. Number one is that, generally speaking, the city tries not to encourage more vehicular traffic. The more parking spots you build and parking decks you build, you attract more cars. That's one component from a planning standpoint. The second aspect of it is that the amount of space that you need in order to build a parking deck is challenging to come by, particularly in the Heights over here. There's open lots on Central Avenue. I think that your councilman was working on a plan, a redevelopment plan at some point as it relates to Central Avenue. He's obviously very aware of it. But there is nothing slated today specifically to build any parking decks anywhere in the city. So again, we balance cost with reality on that, and that's kind of where we ultimately are. As it relates to parking in front of your house, carports, those perpendicular parking spots, the Heights tends to be very complicated on this and a lot of differing opinions. Over the last couple years, when I was on the city council, as well as in my current role, we've deferred to your community groups on it. Your community groups have kind of set the stage on what they want ultimately, and we defer to them. As it relates to additional cars, a lot of that has to also due to illegal apartments. We are enforcing that best we can and more aggressively, ticketing, fining owners of those. We have people going out. I get emails on it every single day. But again, that is a slow process ultimately. So there's a lot of things happening, but I tell you that it's not a Heights unique issue. It is a citywide issue from a growing standpoint of the city. That's really where we are ultimately. So that's kind of as straightforward as I could be on it without telling you that I'm going to build something, which truthfully I'm not building today. And I just want to kind of level with you.
A somewhat related question here. With no major transportation hub in the area, residents need reliable 24-hour public transportation. Although we're thrilled to have City Bike here, we'd be foolish to think that they're a cure-all. What can you do to pressure New Jersey Transit and the state to provide comprehensive and reliable public transportation to the Heights?
So let me start with kind of the bike share situation over here, and then we'll get into the bus system and the jitney system overall. On the bike share system, you know, we were big advocates when we got that implemented to have an integrated system with New York. That was really a priority for us, to have an integrated system that really links all of the areas of Jersey City together. The bike share people, when that started, ultimately wanted to only have them downtown. And I tell you, we were big advocates that it was a non-starter for us if it was only downtown. It had to have in every part of Jersey City to move forward. If you think about how they started City Bike in New York, they only started it in one borough. They only started it in Manhattan. And their belief from a business standpoint is that you start and consolidate in one area and gradually build. We raised the money, $2 million from private donations in order to get it, and we were adamant about the fact that every area is represented. This coming spring, we will be putting in another 20 bike stops throughout Jersey City. And the Heights is slated for quite a few of those. So first, I want to highlight, not everybody here rides a bike. I appreciate that. But that bike system will become even more integrated and larger throughout the city, which I think is important. That's number one. I recognize, and we will have an answer after the 8th, after our meeting with New Jersey Transit. It's the first time that I've actively, normally it's been people from my office or the state legislature being involved in it. I mean, I'm actively involved in going to this meeting with Kern, with the head of New Jersey Transit, and recognizing that the sole focus is bus transportation to the Heights, recognizing that it's not reliable and we'd like them to take over ownership instead of outsourcing those lines. That's first and foremost what we're pushing for. We also recognize the fact, and I'll be working with you guys on the fact of the jitneys, better integrating them into linking downtown and some of the business areas to the Heights in a better manner to actually expand what you have up here.
First audience question, why are there so many vacant storefronts in the Heights Business District, specifically along Central Avenue? Is there an improvement plan in the works, and if so, what is the time frame?
Yeah, complicated answer, complicated question, and I would say it's not an easy answer. What you see as far as a vacant storefront Main Street in the Heights is not unique to anywhere in this country or this state of New Jersey. You've seen with changes away from that Main Street with the evolution of mall shopping and then the evolution of internet shopping. And I would tell you that as prices sometimes escalate on some of these storefronts, there tends to be a disconnect between what the owners think they can get and what the market will sustain ultimately. And then ultimately it comes back to, even downtown I see this, that somebody will invest money and open up a storefront, and sometimes the community doesn't support it with their business. They like to see it there, but they don't ultimately support it. So thus you see turnover on restaurants downtown. The same thing. People are all excited when they open, but then they don't spend their money there ultimately, and that tends to be a challenge. So Central Avenue is no different. We have a team and we have a grant from Bloomberg that is strictly focused on Main Street revitalization. This is their sole mission in what they do every day. It is a $1 million grant from the Bloomberg Foundation, and this is what they do every day, finding ways to get restaurants or businesses to invest. You're seeing small pockets of restaurants open. You're all familiar with that up here in the Heights. You're seeing Wonder Bagel move up here. They're about to open. You're seeing some progress on that front, but ultimately you need some help from all of you to spend your money ultimately there. It's not unique to Jersey City, or certainly not unique to Central Avenue. When I go to West Side, they say the same thing. When I go to what used to be Jackson Avenue, they say the same thing. When you go out of town, they say the same thing. So it's a shared responsibility. We're working on it, but it's a shared responsibility ultimately.
The next question is from Laura Scalaro on behalf of the Jersey City Parks Coalition. In 2008, the city adopted a parks master plan that included a schedule to renovate our city parks over a 10-year period. Unfortunately, the schedule did not include a funding mechanism to accomplish that schedule. As such, the plan is dramatically off schedule, and since being elected in 2013, you've committed to renovating our parks and have made strides on that front. And going forward, how do you propose that the 2008 plan be reevaluated and executed? What funding sources would you employ to accomplish this?
We are not in a police state.
So the question to go back was about, in 2008, they instituted a master plan that spoke to renovation of every park in the city and the timetable of doing it, a commitment from the city to do it, Laura, I guess, and a sequence of parks in a specific order. And we've deviated from that, and her question was, how are we going to fund those? We've committed to doing parks, how are we going to continue to fund it going forward, and how are we going to move forward back onto the plan? And reevaluate the plan. I didn't realize the extent that you guys want the plan reevaluated. I'm happy to reevaluate it. We haven't followed it, frankly. We try to balance, again, your taxes and costs with actually driving forward an open space. I mean, we spent $6 million this year on parks. We're renovating a tremendous number of parks citywide. We're building the largest park in Jersey City. We've committed money to completing. I think there's no shortage of commitment to open space, but you know, a lot of the things that people want and that we can facilitate, sometimes there's a little bit of a disconnect because of cost. You know, ultimately, I try to drive at the fact to keep your taxes as stable as possible. That's really ultimately what I drive at, and sometimes that's not easy. And so we try to balance within our budget funding additional parks. If you want to revisit the time frame, I'll follow up with you. We could talk tomorrow. We could sit down and talk about that. I've tried to be pretty rigid on not putting additional surcharges or taxes on residents in order to even fund things that I'm passionate about ultimately, because I really recognize the fact that, you know, people always have a hard time getting by, and we want to make sure that people can continue to stay in Jersey City. So I'll reach out to you tomorrow, and we're happy to revisit it, Laura.
Before 2013, Central Avenue was cleaned and well-maintained for an average of 9 hours per day, 7 days a week, through the combined efforts of the city and the SID program. This formula worked very well for nearly 20 years before the city withdrew investment, causing Central Avenue's effective street cleaning operation to cease. Existing services from the city are not enough, and trash has again become a major issue on Central Avenue today. What stops the city from rebooting this program with the SIDs to keep our Main Street adequately clean, knowing that the cost is less than 0.1% of the $540 million city budget, and it provides such a significant benefit to the quality of life for residents?
All of the special improvement districts within Jersey City, it's not just this special improvement district in Central Avenue, there's 5 of them throughout Jersey City. I think the number's 5 or 6, and those were all funded partially via the city, partially via the store owners, and partially what's called the UEZ funds, Urban Enterprise Zone funds. And those basically helped fund the street cleaning, additional police in the area. It was very public that the governor cut that funding. It was a big, big penalization to Jersey City's budget ultimately. And consequentially related to that funding cut, subsequently we cut different programs within the city.